Ever wondered about the secret life of one of the world's most iconic landmarks? A wall that stretches over 13,000 miles, built to protect empires, keep invaders at bay, and even carry centuries of history with it. But here's the kicker. What if I told you that the truth behind the Great Wall of China is far more fascinating, mysterious, and shocking than you think? Join me as we uncover the secrets of the Great Wall's origin, its construction, battles, and legends in the most detailed journey through history you've never seen before. Welcome to the Great Wall's History Revealed. Before we get to the famous Great Wall you've seen in pictures and documentaries, let's rewind a bit. Picture this: China thousands of years ago, not the unified country we know today, but a land made up of warring states. These states were fighting for control over the fertile lands, for power, and of course, for survival. The year is around the 7th century BC, and the concept of building walls, yes, walls, wasn't a new idea, but they were small, primitive, and local. No one had ever thought to connect them. These early walls were more like fortifications, made from dirt, wood, and simple materials, meant to protect a state from raiding nomads or other aggressive neighbors. It wasn't anything grand yet, just the beginning of a much bigger idea. So why walls, you ask? The concept of fortifications wasn't new. Ancient civilizations, from Mesopotamia to the Greeks, had already built walls around their cities. But China's version was different. Here, the walls weren't just built around cities. They were built to protect vast, often remote lands. And what made them stand out? The strategic location, the harsh, mountainous terrain to the north of China, and of course the nomadic tribes who lived there, like the Xiongnu, whose raids left their mark on the Chinese states. The northern nomads, who were fierce riders and skilled archers, had been a constant thorn in the side of the various Chinese kingdoms. They didn't fight traditional battles. They struck fast and hard, disappearing just as quickly as they came. The need for a barrier, something that could hold them off, was growing stronger by the day. This is when we see the first real walls beginning to take shape. In the 7th century BC, the state of Qi built its own wall to fend off these invaders. Other states followed suit, each constructing their own, often rudimentary walls, some out of rammed earth, others using wood and stone. But none of them were connected, and none of them were a single unified structure. Yet, fast forward a couple of centuries, and the idea of connecting these isolated walls into one continuous defense system begins to take shape. But this would take more than just one visionary. Enter the man who would unite not only the walls but the entire country, Qin Shi Huang. In 221 BC, after years of brutal warfare, one man emerged victorious, Qin Shi Huang. He wasn't just the first emperor of China, he was a visionary. His plan wasn't simply to rule. Oh no, he wanted to unite the entire country under one banner. And how do you do that? By building not just an empire, but a defense system that could protect it. Qin had already crushed rivals, defeated rebels, and brought together the fractured states of China into a single empire. But there was still one problem: the northern frontier. The nomads were still a threat, and the separate walls of each state weren't enough to stop them. This is where the idea of the Great Wall really started to take shape. It wasn't just a wall to protect cities. This was going to be a massive, unified barrier to protect the entire empire. Qin Shi Huang's grand vision wasn't just to build more walls. No, he had a bigger idea. He ordered the existing walls, which had been built by earlier dynasties, to be connected. He also expanded the wall further, pushing it to new lengths across northern China. And here's the kicker. He didn't just have the walls built by his soldiers. He conscripted hundreds of thousands of laborers, peasants, criminals, and even soldiers into the project. This was going to be no ordinary wall. Now, we know the Great Wall wasn't built overnight. It didn't simply appear as the towering stone masterpiece we admire today. The labor behind it was grueling, dangerous, and at times downright tragic. So what did it take to build this massive structure? Let's take a closer look at the workers, the methods, and the suffering that went into building the Great Wall. First off, let's talk about the workers. Qin Shi Huang, in his wisdom, and let's be real, a bit of ruthlessness, didn't just rely on skilled architects and soldiers. He used whoever he could get his hands on. And those people? They were often peasants, criminals, and soldiers, people who didn't have much of a choice. Some were even sent to work on the wall as a punishment for crimes. Imagine this, being sentenced to build your own tomb, essentially. Qin Shi Huang's empire needed to move quickly. Construction didn't stop for weather, for holidays, or for any kind of rest. Workers faced an unforgiving timeline, and they had to build quickly under terrible conditions. The average worker's day would start before dawn and end long after sunset. The material they were working with wasn't easy either. Sometimes they used huge stone blocks, but often they worked with compacted earth, gravel, and rubble. Now building a wall made of earth sounds relatively simple, right? Well, not quite. Workers would pile up layers of earth and compact them with wooden hammers. Imagine doing that day after day, in all kinds of weather conditions, rain, freezing cold, or blistering heat. To make it worse, the sections of the wall weren't just simple lines. They had to be fortified. The workers needed to reinforce the wall with timber frames and stones. And this wasn't just one section. We're talking about thousands of miles of this. Over time, as more resources became available, they began to introduce new methods of construction. In some areas, they used bricks instead of compressed earth, making sections of the wall much sturdier and long-lasting. Other parts of the wall were made from stone, especially in regions where the terrain was rocky and uneven. The work wasn't just physically demanding, it was also dangerous. Building a wall across rugged mountain ranges and steep cliffs meant workers had to climb precarious heights, using simple ladders or ropes to carry their heavy loads. Imagine the sheer terror of hauling massive stones up a cliffside, not knowing whether your rope would snap or whether you'd fall to the ground below. Accidents were common and fatalities were high. Many of the workers, unfortunately, didn't survive the harsh conditions. But it wasn't just physical hardship. The mental toll was just as brutal. Workers lived in overcrowded camps where disease and malnutrition were rampant. They were given minimal food, often just a bland diet of rice and vegetables. Sleep was a luxury and rest was rare. Imagine being stuck in a work camp, far away from your family, with the only thing keeping you going being the fear of punishment or death if you failed to meet the emperor's demands. In fact, it's estimated that between 300,000 to 500,000 workers died while building the wall. Their bodies were often buried within the very wall they had built. And while the emperor may have viewed them as expendable laborers, their sacrifices built a structure that would endure for centuries. That's the kind of cost it took to make a wall that would stand the test of time. But let's not just focus on the struggles. The sheer innovation that went into building the wall was something else entirely. These workers were crafting something that had never been done before, and they had to develop new techniques as they went along. For example, the rammed earth method used by the Qin workers was highly effective for creating durable walls quickly. They would use wooden frames to hold the earth in place and then pack it down until it formed a solid, hard barrier. However, as time went on, and especially with the Ming Dynasty's renovation of the wall, they adopted newer materials like brick and stone, making the wall even stronger. By the time the Ming Dynasty took over, they were using advanced construction methods, adding watchtowers and garrisons along the wall, turning it into a truly fortified line of defense. The Ming Dynasty didn't just repair the wall, they reinvented it. The wall that Qin Shi Huang started was a crude defense. The Ming era, however, gave us the magnificent structure we can still visit today. With better tools, techniques, and a stronger economy, the Ming Dynasty created the enduring stone and brick version of the wall, one that would resist time and invaders for centuries. By the time the Ming finished, the Great Wall wasn't just a military defense. It had become a symbol of the empire's might and engineering prowess. The sections we see today, with their stone walls and defensive towers, are the result of years of labor, hardship, and brilliant engineering. Okay, so we've seen how the first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, initiated the Great Wall Project and started the first unified defense against the northern invaders. But here's the twist. This wasn't just one emperor's vision. Over the centuries, as different dynasties rose and fell, the Great Wall's purpose, design, and even its materials evolved. What was once a rough, defensive barrier would become a symbol of China's strength, unity, and enduring legacy. Let's start with the Han Dynasty, around 200 BCE. After Qin Shi Huang's empire fragmented, the Han took over and saw the wall as essential for more than just military defense. It was about controlling the empire's borders and facilitating the expansion of trade. The Han were keen on consolidating their power in the north and pushing deeper into the land of the Xiongnu, nomadic tribes that had threatened China for centuries. But the wall's role wasn't just about keeping invaders out. The Han Dynasty also began using the wall to protect the Silk Road, the ancient trade route that stretched all the way to Europe. This was a crucial time for China's economy, as they were trading silk, spices, and even ideas with the West. So the wall was as much about ensuring safe passage for merchants as it was about military defense. The Han extended the wall into the western regions, creating new fortifications. But they didn't just focus on one wall. Instead, they built a system of garrison posts and fortresses, turning the wall into a network of protection. Fast forward to the Tang Dynasty, around the 7th century. By this point, the wall wasn't as much of a military necessity. The Tang had expanded their territory and had a relatively secure empire. The wall during this time became less about constant defense and more about symbolism. It represented the reach and might of the empire, standing as a reminder of the power and unity achieved through earlier conquests. But it wasn't until the Ming Dynasty that the wall became the towering, formidable structure we recognize today. Enter the Ming Dynasty, the real game changer. Between the 14th and 17th centuries, the Ming rulers decided that the Great Wall needed to be reinvented. And this time, they had the resources, technology, and manpower to make it happen. The wall became not just a symbol, but a fortified defense that would stand the test of time. Under the Ming, the wall went from just being a barrier to becoming a highly strategic defensive line. They strengthened the wall by adding stone and brick sections, creating long stretches of solid, durable defense. It wasn't just about blocking invaders anymore. The wall now featured complex watchtowers, which acted as observation posts and military fortifications, and they added beacon towers for signaling between military outposts. The Ming also introduced something truly innovative: garrison stations along the wall, where soldiers were stationed to defend specific areas. These stations were like mini fortresses, with artillery, supplies, and soldiers stationed at regular intervals along the wall's length. This made it easier to defend against attacks and coordinate a military response. The wall also became a place for soldiers to live and train. Living quarters were built into the structure itself. Here's where the wall really shines in terms of its design. Not only was it built for defense, but it was also engineered to keep invaders out through strategic features like moats, ramparts, and trapdoors. The Ming built hundreds of miles of this stone and brick structure, with each section designed to withstand both human and environmental challenges. Invading forces would have to scale the wall, cross difficult terrain, and fight off soldiers stationed at watchtowers. Talk about high stakes. Now, what's fascinating is that while the wall was most fortified during the Ming period, the construction techniques and materials used varied depending on the region. For example, in the western regions, where stone was harder to find, the wall was built from earth and mud, just like in earlier times. But in more populated and heavily trafficked areas, especially near Beijing, the Ming built towering stone walls with intricate designs. These variations reflected both the landscape and the strategic needs of different sections. And this flexibility in construction, combined with the sheer scale of the wall, meant that the Great Wall became much more than just a defensive structure. It was a living symbol of China's power. The Ming Dynasty's approach to the wall was a reflection of China's growing influence in the world. It was as much about the display of strength as it was about the protection of their empire. They built it to stand tall and proud, a testament to the empire's unity, its military might, and its unyielding will to protect its borders. Let's talk about the real story behind the wall's supposed invincibility. The Great Wall, despite its imposing stature and legendary status, wasn't as unbreakable as it might seem. While it was undoubtedly a powerful military structure, the wall's role in actual battle was a bit more complicated. You see, the idea that the Great Wall was some impenetrable barrier is a bit of a myth, because it was breached more than once. Yes, the wall was a formidable defense, but it wasn't foolproof. One of the most famous invasions happened under the leadership of the Mongols. Led by the formidable Genghis Khan and his descendants, the Mongols didn't just walk up and knock on the door. They broke through the wall in a way no one ever thought possible. The Mongols were expert horsemen, archers, and tacticians. Their mobility on horseback, combined with their ability to strike fast and disappear, made them an incredibly difficult enemy to defend against. While the wall certainly slowed them down, it wasn't enough to stop them entirely. So what happened? Well, despite the wall's design, its strategic placement, and its watchtowers, the Mongols found ways to get past it. They didn't just launch frontal assaults, they also used cunning. In some cases, the Mongols bribed or tricked the guards stationed at the wall to let them pass through. Corruption and betrayal were just as effective as brute force. At times, the wall was simply bypassed, and the Mongols moved around sections where the wall was weak or incomplete. And let's not forget, there were parts of the wall that were made of earth and wood, materials that were less durable and easier to breach than stone or brick. Even when the wall did slow down the invaders, it couldn't keep the Mongols from exploiting weak points. They used siege weapons like catapults and battering rams to break through gates and walls, and at times the wall's size and scale worked against it. Its long stretches meant that parts of the wall were less well defended, and some sections were left vulnerable, especially in more remote areas. The Mongols were known for attacking at night, catching guards off guard and overwhelming the outposts. The Yuan dynasty, established by the Mongols after their successful invasion, shows us just how little the wall could do in the face of a determined enemy. Genghis Khan's successors ruled China for nearly a century, and their control of the northern frontier rendered the wall ineffective as a defense. This breach in security marks one of the most notable failures of the wall's purpose. But it wasn't just the Mongols who tested the wall's limits. The Jin dynasty, 1115 to 1234, and the Xiongnu were also significant threats to China's security. And even though the wall had been built to stop them, it wasn't enough to hold off these groups completely. The wall's real effectiveness lay not in its ability to completely stop invaders, but in its role as a deterrent, a barrier that slowed down enemy forces, buying time for China's armies to organize and prepare a defense. However, the wall's role was more than just about blocking invasions. It was a symbol of China's strength and resolve, and its presence along the northern frontier acted as a psychological barrier. The mere idea that such a colossal structure existed to protect the empire had a psychological effect on both invaders and the people of China. The wall told everyone that China was willing to go to any lengths to protect itself from threats. By the time the Ming dynasty took over, the wall had become more than just a military defense. It was a cultural and strategic icon. It had transformed from an actual wall of stone, earth, and wood into a symbol of national identity. The Ming made the wall their final fortress, strengthening it with advanced military tactics, better materials, and more fortified positions. It was under the Ming that the wall reached its peak, evolving into the structure we most associate with China today. Fast forward to today, and the Great Wall is no longer a military stronghold. It's a tourist magnet. Every year, millions of people travel from all over the world to experience the awe-inspiring grandeur of this ancient marvel. It's not just a wall anymore. It's a symbol of China's rich history, culture, and enduring legacy. But how did it go from a defensive fortification to a global icon? The transition of the Great Wall from a military relic to a cultural and tourist attraction didn't happen overnight, but it was a gradual transformation that reflects China's own journey from an ancient empire to a modern superpower. The first major shift began during the early 20th century. After centuries of being used as a military defense, the Great Wall fell into disrepair. The political turmoil, wars, and invasions left the wall neglected. In many areas, sections had crumbled away, and much of its original purpose seemed lost. But in the mid-20th century, something remarkable happened. The Chinese government began to recognize the importance of the wall as a symbol of national identity. The wall's cultural and historical value began to outweigh its military function. It became clear that the Great Wall was more than just a series of stones. It was a living connection to China's past, a source of pride, and a key piece of the national story. During the 1980s and 1990s, The wall began to be restored, and soon it was recognized as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO in 1987. This acknowledgement brought global attention as the wall became not just a historical curiosity, but a destination for tourists eager to experience something grand, something ancient. The wall was no longer just a tourist attraction for the Chinese. It became a must-see for travelers from all over the world. Sections of the wall, especially the well-preserved ones near Beijing, like Badaling and Mutianyu, were refurbished to accommodate the surge in visitors. These sections of the wall are now lined with walkways, cable cars, and gift shops, making it easier for people of all ages and backgrounds to visit and appreciate its splendor. But as the Great Wall became a focal point for international tourism, it also sparked a debate about preservation. With the influx of tourists, there were concerns about the wall's long-term survival. Some sections of the wall, especially the heavily trafficked areas, began to suffer from wear and tear. The sheer number of visitors was taking a toll on the ancient stonework, and in some areas, it became a balancing act between preserving the wall's integrity and keeping it accessible to the public. Restoration efforts have intensified in response to this challenge, and strict guidelines have been put in place to ensure that the wall's historical value is preserved for future generations. Today, the Great Wall is not just a tourist attraction. It is a cultural symbol of China's resilience, innovation, and determination. It represents a link between China's glorious past and its modern present. Tourists walk in the footsteps of ancient soldiers, and while the wall may no longer be a military fortress, it stands tall as a symbol of China's historical significance and its global influence. It tells the story of a nation that built its strength, its culture, and its identity upon the stone foundation of this great structure. In a way, the wall still functions as a guardian, but now it guards the heritage and identity of a nation. Beyond its role as a tourist destination, the Great Wall has also been featured in popular culture, from movies to literature. Films like The Great Wall, 2016, starring Matt Damon, portray the wall as a fantastical symbol of China's power, blending history with myth. The wall has become an iconic element in art, fashion, and media. Its image on posters, postcards, and merchandise is instantly recognizable across the world. It's not just an ancient structure, it's become part of the global imagination. And through its continued existence and its increasing visibility, the Great Wall has become a powerful tool for promoting Chinese culture and attracting global attention to China's rich history. But the wall isn't just about tourism or national pride. It's also about preservation. Various conservation projects have been put into place to protect the wall's integrity. From local government initiatives to private groups of volunteers, efforts to maintain and restore the wall's more neglected sections have gained momentum. However, the work is far from done. The challenge of balancing conservation, accessibility, and tourism continues to grow as the wall remains one of the most visited monuments in the world. But through it all, the Great Wall endures as a testament to human ambition, perseverance, and the enduring power of history. The Great Wall's impact on tourism has also brought economic benefits to the region surrounding it. Local businesses, ranging from souvenir shops to hotels, have flourished thanks to the influx of tourists. The wall has become an engine for local economies, providing jobs and supporting industries that rely on the steady stream of visitors. In places like Badaling, the wall has become a bustling hub of activity with vendors, tour guides, and restaurant owners benefiting from the international attention. For many, the wall represents an economic lifeline, with tourism playing an essential role in the livelihoods of the people who live in its shadow. In recent years, the Chinese government has also started promoting lesser-known sections of the wall, encouraging tourists to explore parts that are less crowded but equally breathtaking. This is part of a broader initiative to preserve the wall while also distributing tourism more evenly across the country, reducing the strain on the most famous sections. All right, let's take a darker turn. You see, the Great Wall isn't just a historical monument, it's steeped in mysteries and legends. Some say it's haunted by the ghosts of workers who died building it. Others claim that treasures are hidden deep within the wall, buried by ancient rulers who wanted to keep their secrets safe. Legend has it that if you listen closely, you can still hear the whispers of the workers who perished while building the wall. Wraiths calling out for help, trapped forever in the stone. So, what makes the Great Wall great? Is it the scale, the history, or the perseverance of those who built it? Is it the battles it witnessed, the legends it holds, or the fact that it still stands tall today, enduring centuries of change? Maybe it's all of that. What we know for sure is this: the Great Wall of China is more than just a wall. It's a testament to human determination, an artifact of a culture, and a reminder of a time when the world felt a lot smaller. It's one of the greatest feats of human engineering and vision, and it's left a permanent mark on the face of history. Thanks for joining me on this incredible journey through the Great Wall's secrets. If you learned something new, hit that like button and share your thoughts on this legendary structure. Until next time, keep exploring. Don't forget to subscribe for more history, secrets, and the world's most epic stories, only here. See you in the next one.